This week I participated in this project where I went 24 hours without spending any time on my phone or texting or just any communication through technology. I didn't respond to any texts, emails, or phone calls and focused solely on face-to-face communication. I had several conversations with people this week that I otherwise would not have had because of this project. I was just more aware of the people around me as I was walking to and from class and just sitting in class waiting for class to begin. I was more aware of the people around me and noticed more people that I was walking to and from class because my attention wasn't focused down on my phone. This project was more difficult than I had expected because I hadn't realized just how much time I do spend on my phone, just looking up information and playing games to pass time and scrolling through social media. The advantage of not being able to communicate through technology is that nothing is taken the wrong way or out of context, or in the wrong tone of voice, because you're able to see the other person and hear their tone of voice. But it is difficult with being without technology and not being able to respond instantaneously or meet up with people for lunch and dinner and other activities, because that is how I usually coordinate with people, through texting, just to see where they are and what time they're planning to be somewhere. Another thing was not being able to check the time on my phone. I wore my watch and had to rely solely on my watch instead of clicking on my phone every time. The biggest nonverbal communication that occurs through face-to-face communication, in my opinion, is facial expressions and even physical touch. Even if the person says one thing, their face could say what they're really feeling, and that could be something totally different, and you're able to see that when you're face-to-face with somebody and not necessarily over a text. Also, their body language could be a sign of whether they're interested in the conversation or not. I was talking with somebody this week who had their arms crossed and began kind of even walking away as I was ending the conversation. So I knew that they were ready to move on and had somewhere to be. So that was a cue for me to end the conversation and just move on. The biggest upside of having face-to-face conversation is being able to see the person, as I said before, and take in their nonverbal cues. It is also, I think, easier to get to know the person and their personality in face-to-face rather than through a screen. Face-to-face communication, in my opinion, is a much better way to get to know somebody. There are a lot of things that you can hide behind a screen and just make seem a lot different. And if you were seeing them in real life and talking to them and having a one-on-one conversation, you would notice and you would just get to know that person better and their personality type when you're in person. This assignment, I feel like, could relate to a communication disorder in that we were not necessarily communicating with our first choice. We were having to go a little bit out of the way to talk face-to-face with somebody when we usually might just send a text. And I think in a small way that is a small-scale representation of how somebody with a communication disorder might feel on a regular basis. Just a little bit uncomfortable talking face-to-face with somebody every day. Definitely during this assignment, I was more aware of how much time other people spend on their phone, as well as how much time I spent on my phone, because during big group activities, they would pull out their phones quite often, and I noticed anytime there was an uncomfortable situation or maybe an awkward silence, people would automatically go to their phones and pull it out and send a quick text or scroll through social media just to fill the silence. I also noticed that anytime, I was also surprised that this was such a difficult activity for me personally, because I don't really enjoy texting and I don't think I'm good at responding to people through text. I would rather see them face to face. But when I was put in this situation where I could not have any electronic communication, I definitely was able to realize more how much I really do rely on sending text and calling people on the phone. I really thought this was interesting assignment, and I liked it because it really put into perspective how much time we spend having conversations through our phone and not face to face.